is thinking.
I'm dedicated to it. I can't be stopped.
Oy vey! Welcome back to the Ted Nugent Real America's Voice Spirit Campfire. You know, all campfires are great, but when you ingest spirituality into the physicality of a fire of freedom, I will be your host. Ted Nugent, Spirit Campfire. Tell everybody know there is a Real America's Voice, because I know Joe Rogan, he's got a gazillion followers, right? Love Joe Rogan. What a strong man he is. I just can't stand that cage fighting. But why would you want to beat the living out of somebody for entertainment? Who would do that? Well, I understand the man in the arena, but you don't have to beat somebody up. You hurt people. I don't want to hurt people. Now, if you mess with me, if you threaten my life, I'll cut you in half. Remington 200 grain core locked 10 millimeter semi-jacketed hollow points from a Glock Model 20 or the other Model 29. Somebody asked me, do you carry a gun? Why would I carry a gun? That would be like carrying a bullet. Anyhow, the point is that I think cage fighting is insanity. I love you, Joe Rogan. I love you. What's the other guy's name? The guy that's going to put on the cage fight for the 250th birthday party on the lawn of the White House. What's his name? Sean Ryan. Is that it? No, Sean something. What is it? Who is that guy? Okay, I went to the Las Vegas fight with Shemaine. It was our first date. I got her own room. We got married like a couple weeks later. It was awesome. Shemaine Nugent, this woman. You know, no matter my flaws, and there are many. Actually, right now I don't have any flaws. Well, I did yell at the dogs this morning. Shemaine said, calm the hell down. I do love my dogs. By the way, the Concord vet, great vet. By the way, speaking of dogs, this segment is brought to you by GetUncleTeds.com. Nutritional, natural supplements for dogs. Instead of the poison and the chemical warfare in the dog treat aisle where it's all deadly, that's why your dogs are dying when they're 9 or 10 years old. We got a mad scientist. Quality of life. It's all about quality of life. In the swamp this morning, it was a perfect morning in the swamps of Michigan, but it was beyond perfect because I had Sadie, Coco, and Jackson with me. Jackson had some eye surgery. Thank you, Anthony, and everybody at the Concord Vet, because he runs like he's a maniac. He just plows wildly, uncontrollably into the nasty tangle pucker brush, horror crap, and scratching and cutting and bleeding. So they worked on his eye, so I got to keep him out of the pucker brush today. But GetUncleTeds.com. What's the best thing for your dog? The top picks, the pack. Go to GetUncleTeds.com. This stuff, I'm not kidding. Happiness can be gauged by the health and happiness of our dogs. You know it's true. By the way, before I introduce Stephen Miller in 6 minutes, if we can time it, Shahu's my technician. I love this guy. We're the only two black guys that work at RAV, I think. Anyhow, when we introduce Stephen Miller, which, by the way, I'm going to introduce Stephen Miller because I'm a good orator. In fact, I'm a great orator. When I do speeches at universities, even though they pull the fire alarms and they threaten my life, that was back in the 1990s. They were already getting stupid. They're on acid or meth or fentanyl or cocaine or heroin or something. Why would the zones for communication and debate be shut down for communications and debate, and then they kill Charlie Kirk because all he wants to do is share ideas? And you have to have the evidence to support your ideas. If you don't have the evidence, you can't shout somebody down and just call them names. If you have no evidence, you lost the debate, Pierce Morgan. Yikes. By the way, if you are neutral, you're not neutral, you're negative. Well, I don't like politics. Then you're negative. Then you're the welcome mat for evil policies. All Democrat policies evil, against the spirit of mankind, against quality of life, against goodwill and decency. Everything on the Democrat side is cruel. Mr. Manchin, Governor Josh Shapiro, how can you be on that team? It is a cruel, indecent, hateful, genocidal, maniacal, dishonest, corrupt criminal side. Josh Shapiro, you're too good to be a Democrat, man. Mr. Manchin, you're just too good to be a Democrat. You can't say, well, I'm a member of the Klan, but I'm not a racist. No, Jimmy Kimmel said, I didn't blame anybody for this. Yet that's exactly what you did. You said it was the MAGA. Well, it is the MAGA that killed Charlie Kirk, but I didn't blame anybody. Yikes, Kamala Harris. Well, I'm not going to have Buttigieg as my vice president because he's gay. Well, why did you say you're not going to have Pete Buttigieg as your vice presidential candidate because he's gay? Why did you say that? Well, I didn't say I'm not going to have Pete Buttigieg as my vice president candidate because he's gay. I just knew that if he was gay, he'd be a bad choice. She said that. She said that. Jimmy Kimmel said I didn't blame anybody. When I saw the tape, he blamed MAGA. Well, I blame MAGA, but I didn't point fingers. That's what pointing fingers is, you numbnut. You are out of your mind, Jimmy. You have lost your soul. The other side is too easy to crush. None of them will debate me on any subject. By the way, Steve Rinella, I love you, meat eater. I'm a meat eater, you're a meat eater. I'm going to have a shirt say, I am Steve Rinella. Or maybe he should have one say, I am Ted Nugent, except he can't say I'm Ted Nugent. Because he said, if I made a hamburger out of CWD positive venison, I'd like to find somebody who denied CWD and they would eat it. Steve, that's not what we're doing. We're not denying the existence of CWD. You sound like Howard Stern, Steve. I love you, Steve. He's done a great job promoting the perfection of resource stewardship and conservation, except that you sound like Howard Stern. Nobody's denying CWD. Nobody denied COVID existed. We're saying that it's a scam because more deer will die on the highways of Michigan today, one day, than all confirmed deaths by chronic wasting disease. Steve, it's not about eating the venison, which, by the way, it's always fatal. You don't know that. In order to know that it's always fatal, you'd have to find out how many deer were killed by hunters that had CWD and we ate them and were still alive. You'll want to debate that. By the way, Steve Rinella said he's going to come to Texas and we're going to talk about conservation and Fred Bear and the spirit of the wild and the perfection of wild game is the ultimate diet. And then he said, well, we'll have a debate about CWD. Steve, you're going to lose. Nobody said we're going to eat confirmed CWD venison. That's not the test. That's not what's at stake here. What's at stake is that it's a scam. So now I'm going to introduce the greatest orator, the greatest speech I've ever witnessed by Stephen Miller. These are just some of his highlights at the Charlie Kirk funeral, but also Shahu. In post-production, before we play Stephen Miller's brilliant oration, is that what that is? Oratorness? His great orator. He's a great speaker, great speech. We're going to play Jackson the Wonder Dog howling with his daddy in my Can-Am from the Peacock Baldwin area Fox Power Sports. Watch Jackson and Daddy howl and celebrate another day in the life of America, gift from God. And then we're going to watch Stephen Miller express what's in the heart and soul of every conscientious, good American. Good, loving, caring, empathetic, passionate, working hard, playing hard American. Stephen Miller is my hero, and Jackson is going to introduce him right now when Jackson and Daddy howl, and then we're going to have Stephen Miller howl right here on the Ted Nugent Spirit Campfire, real America's voice. Can't get away from it unless you're an absolute spineless dip. Really, I love you people. All right, take it away, Jackson.
Hello, Turning Point. Hello, Patriots. Hello to our fearless president, Donald J. Trump. And hello to millions of Americans all across this land who are gathered in sadness and sorrow to mourn Charlie Kirk, but also to dedicate ourselves to finishing his mission and achieving victory in his name. The day that Charlie died, the angels wept, but those tears have been turned into fire in our hearts. And that fire burns with a righteous fury that our enemies cannot comprehend or understand. When I see Erica and her strength and her courage, I'm reminded of a famous expression. The storm whispers to the warrior that you cannot withstand my strength. And the warrior whispers back, I am the storm. Erica is the storm. We are the storm. And our enemies cannot comprehend our strength, our determination, our resolve, our passion. Our lineage and our legacy hails back to Athens, to Rome, to Philadelphia, to Monticello. Our ancestors built the cities. They produced the art and architecture. They built the industry. Erica stands on the shoulders of thousands of years of warriors, of women who raised up families, raised up city, raised up industry, raised up civilization, who pulled us out of the caves and the darkness into the light. The light will defeat the dark.
It gets me thinking.